The soft light of dawn, barely piercing the dense canopy above, found our reincarnated mage, Alara, stirring from a surprisingly deep slumber on a bed of gathered moss and dry leaves. The air was cool, damp, and carried the rich, earthy scent of ancient forest and decaying wood. This was her new reality, a quiet, sprawling wilderness, a world away from the bustling, magic-saturated cities of her previous life. Her former self, a renowned archmage, had known only arcane libraries, political intrigue, and the constant hum of powerful enchantments. Now there was only the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant, almost imperceptible chirping of unseen birds. It was a stark contrast, yet strangely, it brought a sense of calm she hadn't realized she was missing. Her first task upon fully waking was to survey her immediate surroundings once more. The massive, gnarled trees, some so wide that several people holding hands couldn't encircle them, formed an imposing, natural wall around her small clearing. Sunlight, when it did manage to break through, cast dappled patterns on the forest floor, illuminating patches of ferns and wildflowers. It was a beautiful, albeit somewhat overwhelming, place. This was to be the site of her new beginning, the genesis of a village she would construct with her own hands, guided by the immense, almost limitless, power of her cheat creation magic. She stretched, feeling the familiar, yet subtly different, energy flowing through her new, younger body. The raw magical potential was still there, perhaps even amplified by the reincarnation, but it felt unburdened. There were no ancient contracts, no political factions vying for her power, no expectations to live up to. Just the quiet understanding of an immense capability waiting to be unleashed, purely for the purpose of creation. This thought, simple as it was, brought a small, private smile to her lips. Her previous night had been spent in simple contemplation, resting after the bewildering experience of awakening in this strange body, in this strange forest. Now the time for contemplation was over. It was time to begin. The concept of building a village from scratch with magic was not daunting. It was, in fact, rather exciting in its simplicity. No complex spells requiring rare reagents, no delicate enchantments that might unravel with a single misplaced word. Just pure, unadulterated creation, guided by her will. She began by focusing on the most immediate need, shelter. The moss bed, while comfortable enough for a night, would not suffice long-term. With a deep breath, Alara extended her magical perception, feeling the earth beneath her feet, the stones buried within, the wood of the trees around her. Her cheat creation magic wasn't about manipulating existing elements. It was about bringing things into being, ex nihilo, or shaping existing materials with unprecedented speed and precision. For a simple dwelling, she chose the latter. Her eyes closed for a moment, visualizing. Not a grand fortress, not a sprawling mansion, but a modest, sturdy cabin. Solid log walls, a gently sloping roof, a single door, and a small window. Something functional, resistant to the elements, and comforting. She could feel the subtle vibrations of the forest, a symphony of unseen life as her magic began to coalesce. There was no dramatic flash of light, no thunderous roar. Instead, a soft, almost imperceptible hum filled the air, a gentle thrum that resonated deep within her bones. Around her, the very air seemed to thicken, almost imperceptibly. Then slowly, material began to manifest. Logs, already perfectly cut and debarked, began to stack themselves, almost lazily, forming the foundational walls. Each log was smooth, sturdy, and fit together with an impossible precision, as if guided by an invisible carpenter of immense skill. The wood itself seemed to glow with a faint, inner warmth, a testament to the pristine quality of magically created material. It was a quiet, unhurried process, not a frantic burst of power, but a steady, persistent manifestation. Alara kept her focus, her mind a placid lake reflecting the blueprint of her desired structure. She wasn't straining, the magic felt as natural as breathing. This wasn't exhausting, as powerful spells in her previous life often were. This was effortless, a gentle flow of will, translated into tangible reality. It was a truly wondrous feeling, a profound connection to the fundamental forces of creation. The walls rose steadily, each log settling into place with a soft, almost inaudible thud. The corners interlocked perfectly, creating a robust, stable structure. She decided on a single room for now, a cozy space where she could rest, plan, and be shielded from the unpredictable forest weather. The scent of fresh-cut wood, even though it wasn't truly cut in the conventional sense, filled the air, mingling with the forest's natural perfume. As the walls reached a suitable height, she turned her attention to the roof. Again, visualization was key. Sturdy wooden beams, carefully aligned, began to arc overhead, forming the skeleton of the roof. Then planks, perfectly planed and interlocked, spread across the beams, creating a solid surface. Finally, she willed a layer of durable, weatherproof shingles to form, overlapping neatly, ensuring excellent protection from rain and sun. The entire process was like watching a slow-motion animation, a silent, magical ballet of construction. Next, the door. She imagined a simple, robust wooden door with a strong yet unassuming iron latch. It materialized smoothly, swinging open with a soft creak as if it had always been there. A small window, inset with clear, sturdy glass, a luxury in this primitive setting, but an easily achievable one with her magic, appeared on the opposite wall, allowing filtered light to stream into the interior. Stepping inside, Alara ran her hand over the smooth, still slightly warm wooden walls. The air inside was fresh, clean, and carried the pleasant aroma of new wood. It was a simple cabin, yes, but it was hers, brought forth by her own magic, a testament to her renewed power. It felt like a true home, more so than any grand manor she had ever inhabited in her past life. The quiet hum of residual magic still lingered in the air, a comforting presence. But a dwelling, however sturdy, was merely the first step. A village required more. It required sustenance, resources, and eventually other inhabitants. For now, however, her immediate needs were paramount. Water, for one, was essential. She had observed a small, meandering stream not too far from her clearing, its gentle gurgle a constant backdrop to the forest's quiet hum. Rather than fetching water manually, she decided to create a more convenient solution. She walked towards the stream, her steps light on the soft earth. The stream itself was clear and clean, its cool water bubbling over smooth, rounded stones. Placing her hand on the bank, she closed her eyes again, focusing her will. Her vision was of a simple, elegant well, stone-lined and deep, drawing water directly from the underground aquifer fed by the stream, perhaps even purifying it slightly in the process. Slowly, carefully, the earth began to shift. A circular depression formed, growing deeper and deeper with a silent, methodical precision. As the hole deepened, perfectly cut, smooth gray stones began to line its interior, fitting together without mortar, yet holding firm with an inherent magical bond. It was a testament to the subtle power of her creation magic. No detail was too small, no structural integrity overlooked. The process was unhurried, a gentle excavation and construction that seemed to flow directly from the earth itself. The well grew steadily, a deep, cool shaft extending down until the glint of water could be seen at its base. Then a beautifully carved wooden bucket, attached to a thick, magically reinforced rope, materialized, hanging patiently from a sturdy wooden frame above the well opening. A low stone wall formed around the well's edge, creating a safe and aesthetically pleasing boundary. The water within shimmered, pure and inviting. She drew a bucket, the rope gliding smoothly over the pulley. The water was cool, sweet, and incredibly refreshing. This was another small victory, another piece of her new foundation laid. The satisfaction was profound, a deep, quiet joy that came from pure, unadulterated creation. There was no applause, no accolades, just the silent approval of the forest itself, its leaves rustling gently in what felt like agreement. The next priority was food. While she possessed a formidable array of magical abilities, the fundamental need for sustenance remained. She could, of course, conjure food, but that felt temporary. For a village, for a sustainable future, a more permanent solution was required. A farm. A small, carefully cultivated patch of land that could provide for her, and eventually for others. Returning to her cabin, she surveyed a patch of relatively open ground nearby. It was currently overgrown with ferns and various undergrowth, but the soil beneath looked rich and dark. This would be her farmland. Again, she focused, her intent clear. The ground began to subtly shift, the unruly vegetation receding, almost melting away into the earth, leaving behind a perfectly clear, flat expanse of rich, tilled soil. The process was quiet, a gentle transformation rather than a violent upheaval. Rows, perfectly straight and evenly spaced, formed themselves across the tilled earth. The soil in each row was aerated, soft, and ready for planting. She thought of various staple crops from her past life, hardy grains, root vegetables, versatile legumes. Visualizing a selection, she then extended her hand over the prepared rows. From her fingertips, tiny, ethereal seeds began to fall, sinking gently into the soft earth. Not just any seeds, but magically enhanced seeds, imbued with accelerated growth properties and resistance to pests. As the last seed settled, she willed a gentle, consistent rain to fall over the newly planted field. Not a deluge, but a soft, persistent drizzle, perfectly timed and measured to nourish the nascent crops. The air filled with the fresh scent of rain on disturbed earth, a truly calming aroma. The entire scene, from the clearing of the land to the planting and gentle watering, unfolded with a tranquil, unhurried grace. Hours passed in this quiet, focused activity. The sun climbed higher, filtered by the canopy, casting ever-shifting patterns of light and shadow. The forest remained a constant, murmuring presence, its sounds a soothing backdrop to her work. She wasn't just building a village, she was weaving herself into the fabric of this new world, one act of creation at a time. Each stone, each log, each planted seed was an extension of her will, a quiet declaration of her new purpose. She felt a connection to the raw, untamed nature around her, a connection that had been dulled by the artificiality of urban life in her past existence. Here, the magic wasn't confined to ancient tomes or complex rituals. It was alive in the rustling leaves, the bubbling stream, the very earth beneath her feet. Her own magic, her cheat creation ability, felt like a natural extension of this inherent wild magic, a harmonious collaboration rather than a forceful imposition. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the western sky with hues of orange and purple, Alara surveyed her progress. A sturdy cabin, a clean well, and a burgeoning field of crops. It was a humble beginning, certainly, but a profoundly satisfying one. The exhaustion she felt wasn't the draining fatigue of a difficult battle or a strenuous spell. It was a pleasant weariness, the kind that comes from honest, productive labor. She prepared a simple meal, conjuring a small fire within a stone circle near her cabin. The flames danced merrily, their warmth a comforting counterpoint to the cool evening air. She ate slowly, savoring the taste of magically created yet simple provisions. The silence of the forest was not empty. It was filled with 1,000 tiny sounds, the chirping of crickets, the hoot of an owl, the rustling of unseen creatures in the undergrowth. It was a symphony of natural life, a lullaby for the soul. With the night deepening, Alara retreated into her new cabin. The small window offered a framed view of the darkened forest, a silhouette of towering trees against a canvas of stars. She lay down on her moss bed, a truly comfortable improvement over bare earth, and listened to the gentle sounds of the night. Her thoughts drifted, not to her past life, but to the future. What else would her village need? What other structures would rise from the earth under her gentle command? Perhaps a small workshop, she mused, where she could craft tools, refine resources, or even begin to experiment with minor enchantments on mundane objects. A common house, perhaps, a central gathering place for when others eventually found their way to this secluded haven. The possibilities were endless, limited only by her imagination and her quiet, unwavering will. The days that followed continued in this peaceful, productive rhythm. Each morning, Alara would rise with the sun, invigorated by rest and the promise of creation. Her magical energy seemed to replenish effortlessly, an endless wellspring of power that flowed in harmony with her intentions. She continued to expand her cultivated fields, adding more varieties of plants, ensuring a diverse and resilient food source. Each seed planted, each row tilled, was a deliberate act of nurturing, a quiet conversation with the fertile earth. She also began to think about infrastructure beyond mere sustenance. Roads, or at least well-defined paths, would be necessary. With her magic, she didn't need to laboriously clear and pave. Instead, she could simply define a path, willing the ground to smooth itself, compacting the soil, and perhaps even lining it with smooth, flat stones for durability. She started with a simple path connecting her cabin to the well and the fields, a clear, meandering trail that felt naturally integrated into the forest landscape. The path materialized with the same unhurried grace as her previous creations. The undergrowth receded, stones gently rose from the earth to form a stable surface, and the entire stretch of ground felt firmer, more defined. It wasn't a jarring intrusion into the natural world, but rather a subtle enhancement, a guided evolution. She envisioned these paths eventually extending further, connecting future dwellings, communal spaces, and perhaps even leading out of the dense forest entirely, if ever the need arose for interaction with the outside world. She also considered defense. While the forest felt peaceful and she herself was formidable, a growing settlement would inevitably attract attention, both welcome and unwelcome. Instead of massive walls or imposing watchtowers, she opted for something more subtle, more in tune with the forest's natural defenses. Perhaps a series of magical wards, woven subtly into the trees themselves, creating an invisible barrier that would deter unwelcome intruders without disturbing the natural ecosystem. She spent an afternoon wandering the perimeter of her nascent village, touching the trunks of ancient trees, imbuing them with faint, almost imperceptible protective enchantments. These weren't spells of overt aggression, but rather of gentle redirection, creating a sense of unease or confusion for those with ill intent, subtly guiding them away without their even realizing why they felt compelled to change direction. It was a passive defense, elegant and non-disruptive, a magical embrace that protected without overtly threatening. The magic flowed into the wood, becoming one with the tree's own life force, a silent guardian woven into the very fabric of the forest. The cabin, too, received minor upgrades. A simple, sturdy wooden table and 2 chairs materialized within, providing a comfortable space for meals and planning. A small, built-in shelf appeared on one wall, perfect for storing a few magically conjured supplies or future necessities. The interior, though still modest, began to feel more complete, more lived in. Ilara also dedicated time to exploring the immediate vicinity, not just for resources, but to understand the rhythm of this particular patch of wilderness. She discovered a small, hidden grove, bathed in an ethereal light that seemed to emanate from the ancient trees themselves. It felt like a place of profound peace, a natural sanctuary. She decided to leave it untouched, a sacred space within her growing village, a reminder of the raw, unspoiled beauty she was privileged to be a part of. The process of village building became a meditative practice. Each act of creation was an exercise in focus, a gentle shaping of reality. There was no rush, no external pressure, only the quiet, internal satisfaction of seeing her visions manifest, piece by gentle piece. The air around her clearing took on a subtle, almost imperceptible magical quality, a lingering essence of creation that mingled with the natural scent of the forest. Sometimes she would sit by the well, listening to the gentle gurgle of water, or walk through her growing fields, observing the plants as they pushed through the soil, growing steadily under the influence of her subtle magic. There was a profound sense of connection to this place, to the life she was nurturing. It was a life far removed from the grandeur and responsibilities of her past, yet infinitely more fulfilling in its quiet simplicity. The days blended into a gentle sequence, marked by the rising and setting of the sun, the changing quality of light filtering through the leaves, and the incremental progress of her village. She began to plan for a larger structure, perhaps a communal hall or a workshop, something more substantial than her cabin. This would require more focused effort, more refined magical application. She found a suitable, slightly larger clearing, or rather, she gently willed a suitable clearing to expand and present itself. Again, the process was unhurried. The ground flattened, the earth settled, and the trees that needed to be moved subtly shifted, their roots withdrawing gently, replanting themselves a short distance away without apparent harm. Her magic was not destructive, it was harmonizing, adapting the environment to her needs without inflicting violence upon it. For the communal hall, she envisioned a larger open space with a central hearth, sturdy benches, and a large table. It would be a place for gathering, for shared meals, for storytelling, for a community that would eventually, inevitably, form around her. The logs for this structure were thicker, taller, forming a more imposing, yet still welcoming, building. The roof was steeper, designed to shed snow and heavy rain more effectively. The construction of the communal hall took several days, not because it was difficult, but because Ilara maintained her slow, deliberate pace. Each beam, each wall, each stone for the hearth was brought into being with the same quiet care. The internal space gradually took shape, feeling solid and inviting even before it was fully furnished. The large, central hearth, crafted from smooth, dark river stones, promised warmth and light during the longer, colder nights. She imagined the crackling fire, the soft murmur of voices, the shared laughter that would one day fill this space. It was a vision of domestic tranquility, a stark contrast to the sterile, often tense atmosphere of her previous life's grand halls. This was a place for living, for connecting, for simply being. As the walls of the communal hall neared completion, she decided to include a small, attached storeroom. This would be a place to keep excess harvests from her fields, tools, and any other supplies that might be needed. The storeroom, while smaller, was built with the same meticulous attention to detail, its wooden walls just as sturdy, its roof just as weatherproof. One afternoon, while working on the hall's roof, a small, furry creature, a forest squirrel with bright, curious eyes, cautiously approached, chattering softly. It watched her for a long moment, seemingly unafraid, before darting up a nearby tree. Ilara smiled. Even the local wildlife seemed to accept her presence, her quiet magic blending seamlessly with their natural world. It was another small reassurance, another sign that she was doing things right, that her presence here was harmonious. She took particular care with the communal hall's flooring. Instead of simple packed earth, she opted for smooth, polished wooden planks, carefully interlocked and finished to a soft sheen. It would be comfortable to walk on, easy to clean, and would contribute to the warm, inviting atmosphere she envisioned. The magic hummed softly as the floorboards materialized, settling into place with satisfying precision. The furnishing of the hall was next on her list. A large, sturdy table, capable of seating many, appeared in the center of the room, crafted from a single, massive piece of magically formed wood. Its surface was smooth and warm to the touch. Around it, simple yet comfortable wooden benches materialized, perfectly sized and proportioned. Near the hearth, she created a few more comfortable, upholstered chairs, crafted with soft, magically generated fabrics, for those who might wish to relax by the fire. She also thought of lighting. While natural light filtered in through large, unglassed openings during the day, night would require illumination. She created several magically enhanced lanterns, crafted from wood and iron, with self-sustaining light sources that emitted a soft, warm glow, requiring no fuel. These she hung from the ceiling beams, ensuring even and pleasant illumination throughout the hall. The final touches for the communal hall included shelves for books, should any eventually be acquired, and a few decorative elements carved directly into the wooden supports, subtle patterns of leaves and flowing water, echoing the natural beauty of the forest. It was an inviting space, a place that felt instantly welcoming and cozy, despite its relatively large size. Now with her own cabin, a functioning well, productive fields, and a beautiful communal hall, the foundations of her village were truly beginning to take shape. It was more than just a collection of buildings. It was a nascent ecosystem, a place where life could thrive, sustained by her gentle magic and the abundance of the forest. The air in her clearing felt subtly different now, imbued with a quiet energy of purpose and creation. Ilara often found herself simply sitting on the porch of her cabin, or by the communal hall's still unlit hearth, observing the forest. The sounds were constant, the breeze sighing through the leaves, the distant murmur of the stream, the calls of unseen birds. It was a symphony of peace, a continuous natural melody that soothed her mind and heart. The stress of her past life, the constant demands and pressures, felt impossibly distant, like a faded dream. Her magic continued to be an effortless extension of her will. She never felt drained, never felt overextended. It was a constant, gentle flow, capable of bringing forth anything she could clearly visualize. This cheatability, once a source of slight bewilderment, had now become her quiet companion, a tool for shaping her ideal, peaceful existence. She began to think about specialized structures. A small clinic, perhaps, for healing ailments, though with her potent healing magic, it might be more of a general wellness center. Or a crafting workshop, separate from the main communal hall, where more intricate magical creations or mundane tools could be produced. The modular nature of her creation magic meant that adding new buildings was never a challenge. It was simply a matter of thoughtful planning and focused visualization. For a clinic, she imagined a smaller, yet equally sturdy building, perhaps closer to her own cabin for ease of access. It would have separate rooms for examination and recovery, clean, sterile surfaces, and comfortable beds. She began to clear another small patch of land, the earth responding to her silent command, smoothing itself into a perfectly flat, ready-to-build surface. As with previous constructions, the logs for the clinic began to manifest, stacking themselves with quiet precision. The walls rose, sturdy and true, radiating a faint, almost imperceptible aura of cleanliness and calm. She decided on large windows for this building, letting in plenty of natural light, which she felt was essential for healing and well-being. These windows, like the one in her cabin, were magically glazed with clear, durable material. Inside, she created simple, yet comfortable examination tables, covered with soft, hygienically clean cloths. Beds with magically fluffed mattresses and fresh linens appeared in the recovery rooms. Shelves for medicinal herbs, some conjured, others perhaps foraged and cultivated, lined the walls, ready to be filled. A small, purified water source, perhaps a mini-well within the clinic itself, for easy access to clean water, also manifested. The clinic, once completed, stood as a beacon of care and comfort, a testament to her foresight and compassion. It was ready to serve not just herself, but any future inhabitants who might require its gentle aid. The air inside felt fresh, clean, and subtly invigorating, imbued with a soft, healing energy. Now, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky with tranquil hues of orange and lavender, Ilara stood at the edge of her clearing, looking at the burgeoning village. Her cabin, the well, the fields, the communal hall, the clinic, each structure stood as a quiet testament to her resolve, her skill, and her profound desire for a peaceful, self-sufficient life. The dense forest, once a seemingly impenetrable wilderness, was slowly, gently, transforming into a sanctuary, a haven born of cheat creation magic and the quiet dedication of a reincarnated mage. The air was still, filled only with the soft sounds of the evening forest, a lullaby inviting rest and dreams of future growth. Each day brought new quiet foundations, new gentle structures, new possibilities for a serene existence, stretching out into the peaceful, unending expanse of the forest. And with each new creation, the quiet hum of magic deepened, becoming a constant, comforting presence, a silent testament to the gentle power at her command, weaving itself into the very fabric of this new, tranquil world she was painstakingly bringing into being. The path forward was clear, laid out with intention and peace, one gentle creation at a time, under the watchful, ever-present canopy of the ancient, whispering trees. The magic flowed, the village grew, and the forest breathed around her, a continuous, calming rhythm of life and quiet, focused creation. And so, the days continued to unfold, each one a quiet testament to the enduring power of her gentle will.